Hi everyone, welcome back. Now we're going to talk about reading graphs and how to come up with an equation of a quadratic function if you can if you have a graph of one. So I'll notice I had some graph here but no equation here. So the easiest way to do this is with the vertex form. So f of x equals a times x minus h squared plus k, and we need to figure out what h, k, and a are. Well, the h and the k is simple. It's just the vertex. So notice that the vertex is down here at this point, which is 1, negative 2. So we just plug that into our equation. F of x equals a times x minus 1 squared minus 2. So there it goes. So remember that the h gets the opposite sign and k keeps the sign from the point. So now we have to figure out with a. So that means that we have to pick another point from the line. So what I'm going to do is probably the best one here is going to be able to pick out the y-intercept if that's possible, because that way we can just put 0 in for x here, and that makes all our calculations simple. So notice that the y-intercept is 0, 1. That this is actually 0, f of 0. So notice that in particular, f of 0 is 1. So we will go to this equation and plug in 0. So on the one hand, we know it's equal to 1, but on the other hand, we know this is a times 0 minus 1 squared minus 2. So this becomes 1 equals a minus 2, since this will just be negative, this will be negative 1, and squaring it will give you a positive 1. And then adding 2 to both sides of the equation, we will get that a equals 3. And so now we have our equation f of x equals 3 times x minus 1 all squared minus 2. So notice that the only thing I really needed was the vertex and a point. So basically, if I give you the vertex and a point, most of the time you should be able to figure out the equation of a quadratic function. Now I say most of the time because it doesn't always work. There is an exception, and on the guided notes I ask you to think about that. So I'm not going to discuss that here since I asked you in the guided notes to think about it, and if we need to, we'll talk about it in class. So let's move on to another example. It is find the equation of a quadratic function with this vertex and passes through this y-intercept. So again, we're going to use f of x equal to a x minus h all squared plus k. And again, negative 1, 2 is my h comma k. This is my vertex, so I'll plug that in. So I'll get a times x plus 1. Since when plugging a negative 1 in, the two negatives become positive, and then plus 2 on the outside. And this is what f of x is. Now this point 0, 4, remember again this is going to be 0 f of 0, and so f of 0 is 4. So when we look at f of 0, on the one hand it will equal 4, but on the other hand it will be a times 0 plus 1 squared plus 2. And so this will be 4 equals a plus 2, so a in this case is 2. And so our answer is 2 times x plus 1 all squared plus 2. So these problems are not very hard. The hardest thing is probably going to be if you have a graph and the vertex is not at some grid line, or it's a not very nice value, or you can't find another point that's at a very nice value. So that's probably the hardest part about it, but if you get a problem like this is just plug and play. So that's it for this video, so we'll move on to the two story problems and we'll be done with this section.